Hey there, everybody. I know it's not Sunday and it's not my regular live stream. Looks like, oh, better mute this. We'll be getting feedback. Okay, got that muted. Main thing I want to come on here for is to welcome everybody to the channel. We've gotten a lot of new subscribers in the last few days. I greatly appreciate you guys sharing the videos and passing the word along and the people that we've gained on the channel. I gained a lot off of that video, that live stream that I did about AVE's video. So that I wasn't really expecting that, but that video kind of, I think it's gotten 21,000 views since I did it. But Andy B, how are you doing? Lakeside Ranch, Mike Manfred, how are you guys? I know it's, like I said, I know it's Saturday, it's not Sunday, and I haven't been very active. A couple of reasons. One, we have been crazy busy at work. Lakeside Ranch, happy Memorial Day to you as well. Barry Hansen, how are you? Your name. Hello, Jimmy, new subscriber here. How are you doing? And welcome to the channel. Frankie Adams, that's a new one. How are you? BD, how are you doing? Two reasons why I haven't been overly active lately. One, when I did that video, that live stream about AVE's video, that video was really kind of taken off. And I wanted to see how it would do by itself without doing anything else to my channel. So that's kind of why I've just been sitting back and watching that video do its thing. The other reason is we have been, even with the weather, been pretty ridiculously busy. 12 and 16-hour days. I think I had the Tadano up in, let's see, last week I had it in Omaha, which was because of the crazy route that the people in Nebraska put us on. It took us 7.5 hours to get from where we're at to Omaha, which is like a 130-mile drive, but they permitted us 269 miles. So there was that. And then after the Omaha job, we were in Bethany, Missouri, which is about an 1.5 to 2 hour drive by crane from our shop. And then in Maitland, Missouri, and just been all over the place. Construction Cronies, how are you doing, Chris? Frankie Adams, Teacher Haggis, good day from New Zealand. It is Sunday there. John Warren says, remember our military this weekend. That is for sure. So everybody remember that Lakeside Ranch looks like you're working way too much. That's a fact. Your name Tuesday's my first day of crane school. Could you give me 3 tips? Wish you knew when you started. I will get back to that in just a second, your name. But this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, remember that's not just a weekend for lighting your barbecue grill and having friends over. Remember what Memorial Day weekend is all about. So, okay, so 3 tips that I wish I knew when I started. One is it's not going to be as easy as what you think. A lot of people think that when we sit in a crane, we're just sitting there pulling levers and we don't have to use our brain. Your brain is your biggest asset while sitting in a crane. So don't think that it's going to be easy. If you go into that thinking that it's going to be easy, you're going to be disappointed because it is a lot of knowledge to retain. It's a lot of work putting cranes together. So it's physically and mentally draining. What's another thing I wish I would have known going into it? To question everything. I wish I would have, like going into it, someone would have told me in the beginning, question everything. So don't assume that everything is correct. Question it. If someone says, hey, we're going to do it this particular way, and you know that it's wrong, question that. Go with your gut and really pay attention to what you're doing and question those things that you think or know might be incorrect, and do your part to correct them. And then the third thing, the responsibility. So Construction Crane says, I couldn't do it, rigged for cranes for years, but it was too stressful, almost had a breakdown. So going into the crane profession, you have to know, and this is kind of touching on what happened in Seattle and the other crane accidents and stuff. You have to know the responsibility going into it. If you're sitting in a crane on that job site, you are one of the most responsible people on that job site. Everybody, if you've got 200 feet of boom in the air, everybody within 200 feet of that crane, their lives are your responsibility. You're holding their lives in your hands. So know the immense responsibility you're going to have in the crane world, because it's significant. Crane operators actually, in my opinion, and some people might call me out on this, but whatever. Crane operators, in my opinion, probably carry the most responsibility of anybody on the job site. And that's even over the superintendents, the construction engineers, all of that, because ultimately the crane operator has the final say. And if you do something that's wrong and it ends in a catastrophe, all the rest of them are going to be witnesses, and you're going to be a defendant in a courtroom. So those are the three things that I could put out there. I mean, it's a serious profession. I'm not going to sit here and downplay any of the other professions in the trades, but it is one that carries an immense responsibility. So be prepared for that. So Lakeside Ranch says, great advice, Jimmy. 100% agree with questioning everything in all walks of life. Much respect for your professional attitude and safety attitude. Well, thank you for that. And your name, I'm not sure what your actual name is, but your screen name on here. If you watch my videos, safety is paramount. The way I list order of importance is the safety of those working around the crane, the safety of the crane itself, and then my safety. So those working around the crane, their safety is my first priority. The safety of the crane is my second priority, because ultimately, if something's going on with the crane, that puts people in jeopardy. And then the safety of myself is third on that list. So that being said, if something was going on with the crane where, God forbid it ever happens, if the crane was going to go over and I could sacrifice my safety to save the guys on the ground by swinging a certain way or whatever, even if I had to dump it off a cliff or in a lake, I would do that to myself before I harmed someone else on that job site. Andy B says there's no shortcut for safety. That's a fact. Might butcher this, but Katra, maybe along those lines, can I ask your opinion on something that happened to me last summer? Absolutely. I mean, this channel is all about helping people, and I mean, it supersedes the entertainment aspect of YouTube, I guess. I mean, ultimately, I would like to bring the trades to the forefront and show people kind of how cranes do their thing. But this channel also is about helping people. So if you have a question, by all means, throw it out there. Rambo's a clown. Another is the explosive demolition crew. That's a fact. I would not want to be those guys. Casey Auto Doctor, and you never want to be in a courtroom explaining why you purposely did not follow the manufacturer's written directions or OSHA rules. That is also a fact. Frank Hartmeyer, how are you doing? Says happy Memorial Day weekend, Jim. On that question, I tell my students to expect the unexpected. There is that too. Mike Manfred, rules were written in blood, and a lot of times that's the case. Lakeside Ranch says he owns and operates heavy equipment, flies drones, filming all kinds of situations. Love your channel and content here. Thanks for that, Doug. And you've been around for quite some time. John Z, I have not operated off of a barge. I've unloaded stuff out of a barge, but I haven't been in the seat on a crane operating off a barge. Construction cronies, Andy B. More construction workers die than any other profession by a long shot. You don't hear about it. One cop dies and the world knows it. 40,000 construction workers just die and no one knows. And I think some of that goes along with, I mean, some of that old mindset is still there. It was expected. Oh, Billy left. Well, thanks for that. For the $20 super chat. I appreciate that. It says, good channel. I love St. Joe. Lived there over 50 years. Guess the stockyards don't stink anymore. Keep up the good work. That area still stinks, though. You can definitely smell it. Gunnar Helton, hello. Anyway, back to what Chris said from Construction Cronies. You know, back in the old days, they actually had a metric for how many deaths would be on a job. And it was something like for every $1 million spent on a job, there was expected to be one death. Now, I'm sure that's been revised since then, but I don't think that mentality is completely gone. I think companies are still somewhat building into their estimates the cost of a human life if something happened on that job, at least in some cases. But I mean, construction is inherently dangerous. And it doesn't matter if it's construction on a skyscraper or building a deck in your backyard. Building things is inherently dangerous because typically when you're building stuff, you're defying the laws of gravity by using a little bit of physics and math, and sometimes it goes south. So Construction Crony says, yep, they still teach us that in PMP courses. And I don't know what they're factoring into a job site now or into an estimate for the cost of a human life, but in my opinion, you can't really put the cost on a human life. But there's that. But I know I haven't been doing anything lately, and for that I apologize. I've got a lot of footage. Got a lot of footage to edit. It's going to take me a while to get it all edited. What do you guys want to see next? I'll tell you kind of what I've got for footage saved up. I've got a bridge job where I did a tandem pick with a Liability. What was that? 11130, so 155 ton hydro. We did some tandem picks of some precast bridge beams. That job was kind of that was kind of a crazy deal. They brought these 100-foot long or 90-foot long bridge beams to the job site without steerable axles on the back, so they actually got the beam stuck a few times, and it was kind of a mess. We got set up by 11 o'clock, I think, or 10 o'clock. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. We got both cranes set up, and we didn't make our first pick until 3 p.m. So I've got that. I've got I still got to edit the box culvert hour-long video. I did the fast-forwarded like time-lapse version, but I've still got all that footage to edit into an hour-long video. I've done a house job, and part of that house job, we had to cross an old bridge that I had to have the police department shut the bridge down for me. So got that footage to throw out there. So I guess I'll just throw up whatever's next. Andy B. Cell tower. I haven't done any cell towers for a while. And really, I hope I don't. I mean, I don't like cell towers much. Nathaniel Lee, hi there. What's your favorite type of crane, Liebherr or Terex? Tadano. I mean, I spent time in all of them. And really, I've grown to like that Tadano a lot. Cottrell said you nailed the name. So little history. I'm 8 years in the entertainment rigging. Resorted. We also build temp structures for outside shows. Sorry, this is a little long. You don't have to apologize for something be a little long. Construction. Terex does make cranes. Their mobile crane division was bought out by Tadano. Nathaniel Lee is asking again, Liebherr or Terex. If I had to pick between the two, I'd take a Liebherr over Terex, and I'd probably take a Tadano over all three of them. But they all do the same thing. I mean, they all pick stuff up and set it down. It's the Liebherr tends to be probably more comfortable for the operator, maybe more creature features in it. Let's scroll back up here, make sure I didn't miss anything. So Cotro was going to ask me a question on something he had last summer. So if you want to throw it out there, throw the question out, I'll throw an answer at you. Also, before anybody asks, I haven't worked on the hammer in like 3 weeks. So hoping to get some of that in this weekend. I really need to get that thing done so I can start dropping it on stuff. Ryan Santos says work mainly with Liebherr cranes and nothing compares to them in my opinion, but overall they are all perfect machines. Yeah, I mean, they all pick stuff up and set stuff down. Some are a little more efficient at it than others. Some have better load charts than others. But really, when you start taking the same class of crane and put them side by side, they all pretty much compare to one another. Billy laptop, when rating mobile crane by tons, is it the empty weight or with full counterweights? Its capacity will be fully rigged, so fully dressed with counterweights. So, and it's typically, and I wish they would standardize it, but they don't. That capacity is going to be at an 8 to 10 foot radius typically, which in the real world is virtually impossible to achieve. But there's that. So I wish that they would standardize it across the, well, I'd say across the entire crane community, that they listed a max capacity with fully dressed counterweights at a usable 20-foot radius. And that would give people a better perception of what they're actually looking at. Leon Allen, how does the weight scale on a crane work? So some of them have what's called a line rider, which is an attachment that sits on top of the boom that the cable weaves through. And I could draw you a picture on the old whiteboard if you guys want a picture. But some of them have a line rider, and it measures how much tension is on the winch cable, and that tells it how much weight is hanging on the hook. Others have a load cell or a load transducer actually built into the block, and it runs by radio remote. And then, like the crane that I operate, and majority of what you'll find is they'll have a pressure transducer in the boom cylinder circuit, and it calculates hydraulic pressure inside that cylinder to a weight based on a whole lot of math. So hopefully that answers your question. Construction Crane says, oh yeah, Jimmy, can you link the hammer channel? I was trying to find it last week. Is it a channel or a video playlist? If you go back several live streams on my channel, you'll, I think it's one where my brother was in there. There's a link to it there. I'm not overly computer savvy, so I don't want to trash my live stream here by trying to find it. If one of the moderators on the channel can find it and throw it on there, it'd be great. And actually, Chris, I will. Now, Chris, if you happen across it, you can throw it on here if you don't mind. But Nathaniel Lee, at Construction Cronies, yes, they do before they can't. Okay, here's Katra's question. We had a crane op refuse to work after we would not sign his JSA, JHA after he claimed it transferred all liability off him and onto us. Had to get the site soup to call the crane company to get him to. Okay, so that's kind of a sketchy area in there. I've actually contemplated making contracts up for the situations that a customer might ask you to maybe do something that's on the line, and seeing how long it would take them to back away from that contract. It depends on what was his reasoning. You know, were you guys asking him to do something that was sketchy? Were you asking him to work out of his chart or work in adverse weather conditions? I mean, I would need more information to answer that. Now, I've been on jobs where they said, hey, we have absolutely got to get this job done regardless of anything that's going on. And still, if it exceeds the wind rating for the crane, exceeds the capacity, or puts somebody in danger, it's still my responsibility to shut it down. I've often contemplated making a contract where it would transfer that liability to someone else. But I don't think it's really necessary, because ultimately, if I have to, I'll just shut the crane off and go home. I mean, I would rather shut a machine down and go home and everybody come back to work the next day than put someone in jeopardy. Construction crony says we always signed off on the operator's JHA. Casey, doctor, talk to a lawyer before you do any of those types of waivers. Usually, if you have them sign a waiver, it shows you knew. That's a fact. 60-foot towers, 100-ish radius, 5K-ish weight. And that's going to depend on the crane. There's a lot of cranes that won't handle 1,000 pounds at 100-foot radius. Push for oil or broom up. Drew Bradley, how are you doing? Scott Bennett finally made a live chat. Your name says, thanks for the tips. Were you ever an oiler at one point? And if so, what was it like? What could I expect? I absolutely was an oiler, and I think everybody should be an oiler on a crane for several years, or at least 2 to 4 years before you jump in the seat of a big crane. It's a lot of work, and your operator is going to dictate your life as an oiler. So what's it like depends on who's sitting in the seat. I typically am pretty easy on oilers, but I've seen operators that are very hard on oilers. So it just depends on what you get. But I genuinely like to teach people. And that's part of my job in passing on our trade, is to teach those that are interested in it. But there are operators out there that feel like teaching someone else is like they're teaching their replacement. And that's not the case. A good operator has nothing to worry about if they teach someone else, because a good operator won't be replaced. But if you have a marginal operator that's teaching someone else, and then they show that person that they've taught shows better skills or better attitude, or for some other reason they would be better in the seat, then they might actually be teaching their replacement. But if you're a good operator, you don't have to worry about being replaced. I mean, especially now, there's a huge shortage in tradespeople right now. So good operators are hard to find anyway. Let's see. Mitzvah's Golem, Tadano just bought DMAG. Cotro, we had no problem signing it, saying we had a safety meeting. It was him saying it was transferring all liability to us and off them. That's not actually the case. Anytime there's a crane set up, the person sitting in the seat's carrying liability. I don't care who signs what, when. I mean, it doesn't matter. That person still has liability. If they do something wrong, and something happens, that person's responsible. I don't care who signed what. So for an operator to refuse a pick because someone wouldn't sign their JSA or JHA, I mean, that maybe he wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page, or maybe he was just being a jerk about it. But I mean, for him to sit there and say it transfers all responsibility is an incorrect statement. There's no form in the world that's going to do that. Construction Crony says it right there. He says, everyone has a level of responsibility. The operator is ultimately liable. The only time an operator would have a problem is when you're asking him to do something sketchy. And I mean, there's some, I've actually seen it. There's some companies that won't make a pick unless their paperwork's signed. Typically that's for billing purposes, because I've seen situations where jobs were done and then the customer refuses to sign their ticket. And then when they take, as a construction rental company, when they take that ticket back to their office, they've got nothing to go by for billing purposes if they refuse to pay the bill. If they signed the contract beforehand, before the job even started, then if for some reason the company they were doing the work for decided not to pay the bill, they could actually go to court with that signature and say, hey, they agreed to the terms of this service that we provided, they're responsible for paying us. Dropping loads. How are you doing? Says, hey man, I'm here with my 5-month-old son watching from New Jersey. How are you doing? Ryan Santos says he works with an LTM 1300, 1220, 1100, and a Grove GMK 3050 in New York City. Crane Mech, I'm assuming that's short for mechanics, has been a crane mechanic for 20 years. Props on your channel. Lots of good info presented. Thanks for that. I appreciate all the great feedback you guys give me. And every now and then I'll get a hater in there that wants to throw some stuff around, and I typically just sweep it under the rug. Sometimes I'll comment back, kill them, I'll try to kill them with kindness, but whatever. Gang and deep sing. I'm just gonna go by sing because I'm gonna mess up the front part of it. It says cool buddy, love from, I think that's Punjab, India. And he's been following for a while. I think I actually made a few videos or a video setting the crane up because he requested it. Hopefully I did okay with that. But so what's everybody want to talk about? What I've got a little bit of time. We're actually having a cookout later and some friends are coming over, but got a little bit of time before then, so we can do a little question answering or just shoot the breeze about whatever. Christopher Doyle watching from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. First year crane operator, local 115. Local 101 here. And I forgot to mention, we've got a couple new stickers. So, and it's really hard to see, and my camera won't focus on stuff all the way back there, but MSL Logging is right up there in front of the hatchet. And then Benchmark Abrasives is right there, which Benchmark Abrasives kind of cut me a little bit of a deal on all of my abrasive wheels and stuff for the hammer build. So also I've got an operating engineer's local 101 towel now, thanks to Mike, who is one of my coworkers, and you guys have seen him in some of my videos, but he doesn't like being on camera. He's camera shy. Construction Cronies just subs capability to interview people on my channel. Would love to set one up with you. Anytime you want to do it, Chris, reach out to me and I'd be glad to. This is cool. Christopher loves the name. It's my name too. I'm right next door in Edmonton. You guys are neighbors up there. Yeah, Chris, anytime you want to do an interview deal on your channel, I'm up for it. That's one thing I love about this YouTube platform is it's like a giant family. So as people come to the channel and watch the content and get to know each other, and there's actually real connections built there where people can rely on each other for information or even actually send people stuff to help them out in their day-to-day lives. For example, Plaza Towing. If you guys aren't watching Plaza Towing, you need to go check that channel out. But Rich Savalio, which is a subscriber on this channel, sent Trent with Plaza Towing some pocket rigging guides and some other stuff. And that connection would have never been made without the YouTube platform. So that stuff is, it's really neat and intriguing to me. So this is Ryan Santos. Your videos will give me good tips. Keep doing what you do. I appreciate that. And I'll try to get my butt in gear and get more footage out there for you guys. Construction Cronies is super cool. Thanks, Jimmy. I know you're busy. I'll fit it in there. I mean, if you want me to be a guest on your channel, I'll absolutely fit it in there somewhere. You just let me know when you want to do it, and I'll try to make it happen. Scottress says, do you do any outdoor temp structure builds for concerts? We would if we had more concert venues in the area. Where we're based out of, there's not really a lot of concert venue stuff. Now down in Kansas City, those crane companies do a lot of it. There's a lot of venues down there where they have concerts. So Drew Bradley says, I have stickers, might be a bit much for your sticker wall. Would be glad to send you one. Not obligated, they say. Hung like a hamster started as a joke. Andy B says, I'm just glad you're still alive. Barry Hansen says, Thor's Hammer is your other site. That is my other channel, and I haven't done anything that pertains to Thor's Hammer for the last 3 weeks. So, yeah, there's that. Sooner or later, I'll get that hammer done. My plan is to work on it Sunday and Monday this week. Construction guide, does IATSC not have a crane rigging division for setting up concerts? I'm not sure on that. I haven't ever had to set up a concert venue. Seems like I get stuck with all the other stuff. Construction crony. It is, the other channel is Thor's Hammer, but it's hard to find because there's a lot of channels with Thor's Hammer on it. So I don't know about you guys. If we got anybody in the Midwest, I am sick and tired of this rain. Barry Hansen, there's another channel with a smaller one which smashes things. I saw that. Their channel's 220 pounds. And their channel's very big. There's 4 million subscribers. And that channel is how ridiculous. Their channel is just going to help me boost my other channel when I get the hammer done, because I can actually tag some of their channels or some of their videos, and should bring a large portion of their audience to my Thor's Hammer channel relatively quickly. Drew Bradley, Indiana is set right now. I'm not sure what that's for. Rambozo Clown, thanks for throwing that in there. Kotra says, I'm not union, but I've heard of a crane side. There's a rigging side for setting up inside normal buildings. It's more about building a structure inside of like football stadiums. Oh, Drew Bradley. Indiana is wet right now. So is Missouri. I think Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Indiana, basically the Midwest. Everything between the Rocky Mountains and the Appalachians is soaked. And unfortunately, there's going to be more flooding. I was chatting with Ron Pratt not all that long ago, and he said it was almost historic levels down there, and it, unfortunately, there's no end in sight. Not until this rain stops, and I think it's supposed to rain here all next week now. Mitzvos Golem says, DMAG of Germany refused to sell out to China. Now Tadano got them. Will be a new major player. The Barry Hansen Port Indy 500. Now, Tadano was positioning themselves to be a major player in the crane world, and they've been around for a long time, but they haven't had much of a footprint in the United States up until relatively recently, and they're setting themselves up to be one of the big major players. Woofy W, how are you doing? So sorry I'm late. No worries there. Lester and Thompson, 22 inches in 2 weeks, more on the way. Ugh. Yeah, but what do you do with all this water? You just let it go downstream. I mean, that's all you can do with it. But there's a lot of destruction, and the Corps of Engineers they're on a hot plate right now with the way they've managed the rivers. Nigel Ashworth says, hey, Jimmy, good to see you back on. How are you doing, Nigel? And yeah, I apologize to everybody for being a little distant the last 2.5, 3 weeks. See if we can fix that coming up. I mean, have If I could edit everything that I've got sitting right now, I'd probably have 12 videos out. David Middleton, how are you doing in Spokane, Washington? Billy Laptop, Tadano, it depends on which machine. So Tadano bought Mantis cranes, which are hydraulic crawler cranes, and they're built in the United States. And then their all-terrain cranes, like the one I operate on my channel, are built in Germany. And then their rough terrain cranes are built in Japan. Some of their trucks and stuff are built in Japan. So they're a global, truly spread out global company. So it depends on which segment of Tadano you're looking at, but all over is where they're built. John Z, importance of crane operator personality to the employer. I assume calm and collected like yourself is preferred. It seems like a crane is not the place for a hyper person. John Z, that's pretty spot on there. Crane cab is not big enough for a person to go crazy in. And I get rattled from time to time and get stressed, but I handle that by being calm and collected. You have to, because as soon as you fly off the handle, you start making mistakes, calculations get missed. So being hyper or high strung or arrogance is no place for a crane operator or a crane cab. All of those things will get a person in trouble sitting in the seat of a crane. Ben Lausen S says, hey, Jimmy, what do you use for lube on the boom and cable? We use Liebherr grease on the boom and Ferrobit on the wire. We use a product made by Luba Boom. We actually use both of their products. They've got a roll-on or a brush-on boom grease that we use, and then we use their spray-on cable lube. So Luba Boom is getting a free plug today. So lubaboom.com, you can find all of their products, and they make great products. Woofy W says it's a bit damp here at the moment. It's supposed to dry out later today. Yeah, it's going to be wet here for the next week, I think. Billy Laptop says thanks. Construction Cronies. No, I think there's right around 300 subscribers on the Thor's Hammer channel that I've got one video on. Let's see. I'll see if I can pull up the thumbnail for it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Thor's hammer that you're looking for. Let's see if we can get it to focus on this thumbnail. Come on. Come on, focus. It's not doing so well. There we go. And episode 1, the title of the first video is episode 1, building the 1,500-pound Thor's hammer. Rambozo Clown, I think, linked it right there for you, Chris. It's got 206 subscribers. And it looks like I've lost one on this channel since I started my live stream, which, so be it. All right, let me back up here. I think I missed a few comments. Nigel Ashworth says he's been operating a Tadano 160. It's very nice, 200 feet of main boom. And if it's the Tadano 160 G-5, it is almost an exact copy of the 180G that I'm operating. 197 feet of main, 123 feet of total jib with 110,000 pounds of counterweight. Drew Bradley says my city pays a bit of money to a local crane company to have on hand certain pieces of equipment, cranes of various types. Is that for emergency purposes? It probably is. Coucher said the crane looked a lot like the one in the picture up in the corner of your room. Oh, probably that one up there. construction crew. He's worked with a tower crane operator, fell asleep in the middle of a lift, and the boom just kept turning around. Guy had to climb up. We thought he died. Yeah, that'd be an easy way to get run off a job. Noel Tech, how are you doing? This is from camp in Vermont. Crane Mech, what is your take on NCCO schools pumping out operators versus the tradition? I don't like the fact that someone can just go to a school, pay $1,000 and leave with a crane operator's license in 2 days. That 2 or 3 days does not a crane operator make. It takes a few years. Scott Bennett 207 now. Crane Mech, I can make a crane do what I want it to do, but I don't claim to be an operator. Rambozo Clan, might be a little too laid back. Ryan Robinson said, my new favorite channel. Keep up the awesome work, Jimmy. Thanks for that. Brandon, how are you doing, Brandon? D. McDonald, how are you guys doing? Oh, Nigel Ashworth, it's the 3-axle RT. That's supposed to be a neat machine. I've ran a GR 1000. You're running a GR 1600. The GR 1000 is a great machine, but I haven't had an opportunity to get in the 1600 yet. I'm doing well, Brandon, other than it's being a little rainy and whatnot here, some flooding and all that fun stuff. But other than that, doing well. Been working a lot. Actually been driving a lot. So that route they sent us to Omaha, from where we're located, Omaha is like 139 miles. Because of all the damage and destruction from the previous floods where the dam broke up in Nebraska, they routed us, I think it was 269 miles to go 139 miles. And 269 miles through that kind of terrain, it's fairly hilly and curvy, windy roads. Took us about 8 hours one way. So that was kind of brutal. Had to stop for fuel twice. So the old Tadano is not overly fuel efficient and definitely doesn't carry a lot of ground speed. JB98, how are you doing? Drew Bradley, crane operator in 2 days. Yeah, and I don't get that. That's actually kind of scary. I've worked on one job site where a guy went through that, got my crane certification in 2 days deal, and it was evident. It was evident from the time he got in the seat that he had not spent much time around cranes, and then all of a sudden was sitting in the seat. And needless to say, he wasn't on that job site all that long. It takes a lot of time to learn the basics of that kind of stuff. And we're always learning. We're constantly learning. There's no time in your career that you will stop learning if you're a crane operator. If at any point, as a crane operator, if at any point you can sit back and say, hey, I know it all, it's time for you to not put yourself in a crane anymore, because at that point, your arrogance has taken over and you're going to get someone hurt. Nigel Ashworth says it has the pin and boom similar. So it's got a pinning boom like the ATs do. And most of those bigger ATs have or RTs have a pinning boom. Drew Bradley says pros and cons of folding boom cranes like the Palfinger, I think is how that brand is spelled. The Palfingers excel by being able to mount them to transport truck chassis. They don't weigh a whole lot in comparison to what they're capable of. And so they're used primarily on transport trucks that have to offload themselves. So that's where they excel. They excel at being compact and picking up reasonably heavy loads, and setting them off on job sites. You wouldn't typically use a Palfinger crane for the kind of stuff that we do on our channel or on this channel, because it's they're limited in the fact that most of them don't have winches on them. Some of them do. They have a winch option for them. So before someone rails on me for that. But the Powfinger is designed to be compact and mounted to a truck and used for offloading. D. McDonald Evelyn Woodhead speed craning course. Brandon said, I'm sure you probably already answered this dozens of times, but how's the hammer? I haven't done anything at all with the hammer in 3 weeks, so I need to get going on that. And I'm going to work on it tomorrow and Monday. Crane Mex is watching someone's hook will tell you everything you need to know about them as an operator. That's a fact. Rando E, who hires these people without experience? That's a huge liability. It is absolutely a huge liability. And sometimes people lie about their experience. I mean, if a person goes to a contractor and shows their certs and says, hey, I've done this, this, and this, and they're lying about their experience, I mean, it's not the contractor's fault at that point. They, unless they're going to call and verify their experience, which I guess they could. But yeah, I'd kind of like to know someone's pedigree before I turn them loose in $1 million machine with people's lives at risk. Construction company says, yeah, I rigged for 3,500 hours before I went in the seat. Found it all too stressful. Being in the seat was challenging because I'm a go-go person who can't sit down. Yeah, if you can't sit down for a long time, a crane is no place for you. Ben Lausen says, here in Norway, knuckle boom, Powfinger truck cranes has taken over a lot of the mobile crane market just because they're more versatile. And they are getting pretty strong for their size. And I mean, they're a neat machine. And over in Europe, I could see them really excelling because of their small footprint. Our roads over here aren't anything like what they face in a lot of the European countries that I don't even know how they get a motorcycle down them, much less some of the cranes that they have over there. But I was told by an operator, I actually used to work with him, that the reason why crane cabs are so small is there's just enough room for the operator, the manuals, a little bit of knowledge, and no room for arrogance. Nigel Ashworth, the schools were intended for operators who were experienced but not certified. That's exactly it. There is actually a prerequisite to get into those schools. It's a number of hours worked in, on, or around cranes. And I would say some of those people or places that are pumping operators out with little to no experience are companies that aren't verifying those hours, or they're fudging it a little bit or a lot. And what's ultimately going to happen is there's going to be an influx of certified operators, I think, into the industry, and it's going to be operators that don't have any experience, and as such, we're probably going to experience some crane accidents. Hopefully that's not the case. I would like to think anybody that's going to put themselves in a crane has the wherewithal to say, hey, this is out of my wheelhouse. This is out of my comfort level. And yeah, I'm not going to do that and walk away from it. But there's a lot of people out there that don't carry that mentality. And those are the people that drive 100 miles an hour to work every morning and think they're invincible. Well, when you're in a crane, typically it's not the guy in the crane that gets injured in the accident. Typically it's the people on the ground. So hopefully people are watching my channel and sitting back and thinking, man, I want to be a crane operator. And then they see what we actually get involved in. And like, yeah, I don't know. I want to do it, but I'm going to be cautious in how I handle it. And that's the way they need to approach it, is with caution. Barry Hansen says there are a lot in New Zealand as well. Ben Lawson says, yeah, they're big in Denmark, Germany, especially Turkey. Check out Erican World Power. I'm assuming that's a YouTube channel, maybe. But I mean, if my channel sparks the younger generation into becoming crane operators, I really hope it does. But I also want people to approach it with caution and be responsible with it. Woofy W, same can be said about truck driving schools. In the door, out the door, not much real training. I've seen it. I mean, we've been on job sites where our guys have had to back their trucks up for them because they couldn't back up. I mean, they can run straight down the road. They can get the piece to the job site, but they can't back up. And I mean, backing up is an integral part of driving a truck. Sooner or later, you're going to be in a position where you have to back up. Crane Mix says, I've seen 4 or 5 bear rented RTs that were turned over by inexperienced operators. And it happens. Unfortunately, it happens. Ben Lawson says, Eric and World Power is a producer of knuckle boom cranes. They're huge with counterweights and all. That'd be pretty neat. Rambozo Clown. I knew it was going to come out at some point that someone would bring up rotators, that rotators are doing a lot of non-crash related work too. Here's the skinny on that. And for anybody that's a tow company that has a rotator that's watching this far into my live stream, I don't know where the book is. I don't think I have it down here. I may have it upstairs. The OSHA standard states that rotators and wreckers are exempt from crane certification only while lifting vehicles or clearing an accident. So only while lifting vehicles or clearing an accident. If they're taking their rotator out and using it for hoisting purposes, that rotator operator, according to the OSHA standard, has to be crane certified. That's anything that's capable of picking up more than 2,000 pounds. So your mechanics truck cranes, if you have a mechanics truck out there with a crane on it with a capacity of more than 2,000 pounds, that mechanic, according to the OSHA standard, has to be crane certified to use that crane on his truck. If he gets caught by OSHA without certification using that crane, he's going to be in trouble. Same holds true for the rotators. If the guys are using the rotators for anything other than lifting vehicles or clearing an accident, and they're not certified, that rotator operator is going to, if they get caught, they're going to get in trouble for operating a crane without being certified. And I took a picture of that wording in the crane standard and sent it to Trent and Ron Pratt. Trent with Plaza Towing and Ron Pratt. And I'm hoping they're doing something with it, or they've got their ducks in a row and they don't attract too much attention to themselves if they haven't, because it's a pretty stiff fine. As far as, I think it's like right around $10,000. Ben Lausen says Tadano also has a wrecker body, BKF 40, similar to a rotator. I haven't seen that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as far as the rotators and like even guys set in septic tanks, roofing material, arborists that own their own cranes. They're all subject to that crane standard, and we'll see how it goes. Construction Crony says, well, I'm so thankful we never had any crane incidents where people got hurt or cranes got overturned. A lot of near misses. And near misses are, I will show Drew Bradley's message. I don't know why I tagged that out, but near misses are an indication. If a person has a lot of near misses, that's an indication that someone needs more training. Kyle Austin says here in Ontario, we have 3 hoisting licenses, 0 to 8 tons, 8 to 15, and then the other one, 8 to unlimited. Lester and Thompson said, no kidding, didn't know that about service trucks. Is this fairly recent? The crane certification requirement is now being enforced as of February of this year. Taro Antilla, I think that's Antilla. Hello from Sweden. A hello from Missouri in the USA. Rainbow's Clown, for some reason, arborists have some crazy exemptions around cranes. They do in some cases, but I can go, I mean, the book's upstairs. I could go get it and read it, but I'm pretty certain most cases, the operator still has to have certification. Casey Auto Doctor, her ignorance of the law excuses no one. The government inspectors and lawyers will likely know the law better. That's a fact. Milky Way, you will be alive. Kyle Austin's pretty crazy. You can run a 900-ton crane with your 339, but not an 8-ton. Yeah, that does seem kind of weird. My certification covers me on all hydros, small to large. I don't have lattice boom certification because I don't plan on putting myself in one. And if I did get lattice boom certified at some point, that would probably put me in that old link belt that we've got, and I'm not going there. I'm going to avoid that thing like the plague. Nigel Ashworth had a guy who could operate smoothly, but when it came time to relocate the RT, couldn't break it down. He is back to rigging. Yeah, you got to know how to move it around. That's for sure. I mean, mobile cranes are mobile for a reason. It's because they need to be used in other places. Taro Antilla, love your videos. Thanks for that. Crane back. The more experienced hands need to look out for the green hands. The green hands need to realize that the older hands are just looking out for their safety and not get butt hurt. And typically that does go both ways. I've seen some overbearing, experienced guys that just like grinding younger guys into the ground. And I've also seen the opposite, where the experienced guys are being calm, cool, and collected, offering a little bit of advice, and the younger guys are just sweeping it under the rug. And that if I had an oiler that wants to learn the machine, I'll teach them after they read the book. I mean, they need to understand all the ins and outs of the machine before I let them in the seat. Until they read the manuals, I'm not letting them get in the seat. But I'm also not going to grind them into the ground. And like I said, I've seen a lot of experienced guys do that. But the same holds true. I've seen younger guys that fly off the handle and they're like, oh, I'm not listening to that guy. Well, when they turn their crane over, maybe they would probably wish that they had listened to somebody. Ben Lausen said, licensing or not, the thing that scares me the most often is the disregard, carelessness to ground conditions when setting up a crane. That takes experience. That's a fact. And unfortunately, there are times when you can't really tell what's under the ground. But whenever I walk onto a site, that's the first thing. I look at the ground and then I look overhead. And you can generally tell if a ground's been loosely backfilled or if there's a depression in the ground. If I'm going to set a house, the first thing I ask is where the septic tank is, if there is one. I look for manhole covers because those are indicative of voids in the ground. But then there's also this crazy thing called sinkholes that those can be anywhere. And the Corvette Museum was half swallowed up by one, and no one ever knew it was there. So there's that. At some point, I think ground penetrating radar is going to be a necessity. Oh, there you go. Rambozo Clown just threw it out there. I imagine someday large cranes will have ground penetrating radar built in. Billy Laptop says, I found an error in the Tadano settings literature a while back. Did they correct it yet? I haven't heard back from them yet. When I do, I'll let you guys know, but I'm sure that they will correct it. And until they do, I just won't use that part of the load chart. Little Tube 54 says it all pays the same. Please, safety first. Construction Crony says, after run going out with the family. Thanks, Jimmy. We'll be in touch. Hey, thanks for stopping in, and keep up the great work on your channel. And whenever you want to do that interview, just let me know. I'll jump on with you. Crane mech, been losing that one of the things that differentiates a lever puller from an operator. And that there's a lot of truth to that. Anybody can get in a machine and make it move. It's, can someone set the machine up safely and make it do what it's intended to do and complete the job safely? That does make a difference. And there are days that I wonder why I ever got out of doing dirt work, or there are days that I miss being in a backhoe because, you know, the crane world is pretty stressful at times. But that's one of the things I enjoy about it too, is every day is different and every day is a challenge. You know, I couldn't be stuck in a factory or stuck in a cubicle. I'd go crazy. I'd rather be sitting in a little greenhouse on the back end of a crane making things happen. But let's see, we've been going for about an hour. Yeah, it's 3:16. Main thing I want to jump on, let everybody know that I was still around, still going to do videos. Was kind of babysitting that other video to see how far it went, and was just kind of curious. I was kind of running a little bit of experiment of my own just to see how things were going with me being away from it. Cut and clean TV, fake news. What are you doing, Andy? Bin Laden, especially when you come out to a work site and the excavator operator says they have belted the pad for you, so it's compacted. Lester and Thompson, man, a CDL, passive drug test, welding certs, crane certs, reliable and not a mental midget. I'll never find an employee. I have been lost, and says I have the same footprint standing on one foot as an excavator has on its belts. That's a fact. The belts on an excavator don't have much ground pressure. But I'm probably going to shut this down here pretty quick. Woofy W, any new updates on the hammer? Haven't done anything on the hammer for 3 weeks, so I have nothing to update. Going to work on it Saturday and Sunday, so hopefully next week I'll have an update. Cut and clean, been wanting to hit the lakes, but at Smithville you can't get a boat under any bridges. Yeah, Smithville's full. But anyway, 3:18. I got to go get ready for cooking out later. Got some honeydew stuff to take care of around the house before everybody gets here. I appreciate everybody stopping in and watching. Paul Frankham, I'll answer that real quick. It's about 100. It's 2 fuel tanks. There's one in the upper that's about 120 gallons, I think, or 100 gallons. The one in the lower is about 140, I think. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's not enough to get to Omaha and back, which is about 200 and, well, if I was driving straight there and back, I could probably get there. I can run about 140 miles before I have to stop and get a little bit of fuel. Nigel Ashworth says, enjoy your Memorial Day, Jimmy and crew. I hope everybody has a great Memorial Day. Please don't forget what the weekend's about. Enjoy time with your family and friends, but don't forget what it's all about. I'm going to try to get some stuff uploaded probably by Wednesday next week. So be watching out for that one. But again, I appreciate everybody. Thanks for popping in and subscribing and sharing this channel with other people. And I mean, it has really grown and it blows my mind. And I appreciate that very much. So with that being said, have a great weekend. To the Top Crane is out.